My brother's fiancée said I wasn't welcome at their wedding, so I reserved the event space she needed. The photo still haunts me. Ava and me at graduation, arms linked, matching grins, our caps slightly crooked from laughing too hard. We looked like sisters then, both of us glowing with that naive confidence that comes from believing the world is waiting for you with open arms. If someone had told me that day that this girl, my ride or die, would one day steal my dreams and try to erase me from existence, I would have laughed in their face. But life has a twisted sense of humor. Ava Martinez came into my life like a hurricane, all energy and ambition wrapped up in designer thrift store finds and an infectious laugh that could make you forget your own name. We met freshman year at Howard, two girls from different worlds who somehow clicked over late-night study sessions and shared dreams of changing the world. She was from Miami, all sun-kissed confidence and bilingual charm, while I was the quiet girl from Atlanta who kept her head down and her grades up. "Maya, you're going to be somebody," she used to tell me, sprawled across my dorm room floor surrounded by business textbooks and empty coffee cups. "We both are. We're going to build empires." And God, how I believed her. Our friendship was built on those 2 a.m. conversations where we'd sketch out business plans on napkins and dare each other to dream bigger. Ava had this way of making everything seem possible, of taking my scattered thoughts and turning them into something that felt real, tangible, achievable. When she cried over her first college breakup, I was there with ice cream and tissues. When she called me sobbing at 3 a.m. because she was failing organic chemistry and considering dropping out, I talked her through it, helped her find a tutor, even lent her my car, so she could make it to extra study sessions. "I don't know what I'd do without you, Maya," she whispered that night, her voice thick with tears and gratitude. "You're like the sister I never had." That's what made the betrayal cut so deep. It started with Black Bloom, my baby, my passion project, the business idea that kept me up at night with excitement instead of anxiety. The concept came to me during a particularly frustrating shopping trip where I'd spent hours looking for skincare products that actually understood Black skin, that celebrated our natural beauty instead of trying to fix it. I wanted to create something different, something that said, "You are beautiful exactly as you are," instead of, "Here's how to be beautiful like everyone else." I remember the exact moment I shared it with Ava. We were in my apartment, the tiny one-bedroom I could barely afford, and I had spread out all my research across the coffee table. Market analysis, product concepts, brand mood boards, everything. My hands were shaking as I walked her through it, because this wasn't just a class project or a daydream. This was my future. "Black Bloom," I said, watching her face for a reaction. "A boutique beauty brand that honors natural Black beauty. No more trying to fit into spaces that weren't made for us. We create the space." Her eyes lit up in that way that used to make me feel like I could conquer the world. "Maya, this is incredible. The market research, the positioning, the name, it's perfect. You're going to change everything." For weeks after that, Black Bloom became our obsession. Ava would come over almost every night, and we'd refine the concept together. She had this amazing ability to see the big picture, to take my detailed research and turn it into something that felt like a movement. She helped me practice my pitch, role-playing as tough investors while I stumbled through presentations that gradually became more polished, more confident. "You need to own your expertise," she'd say, playing the part of a skeptical venture capitalist. "Don't apologize for knowing what Black women need. You are a Black woman. That's not a limitation. That's your superpower." I trusted her completely. Why wouldn't I? She was my best friend, my biggest cheerleader, the person who believed in me when I didn't believe in myself. When she offered to help me research beauty brand accelerators and investment opportunities, I was grateful. When she volunteered to look over my pitch deck and make suggestions, I handed it over without a second thought. That trust would come back to haunt me in ways I never imagined. The first crack in our friendship came during senior year. Ava had been acting strange for weeks. Secretive phone calls, mysterious meetings, a new wardrobe that definitely wasn't from the thrift stores we used to raid together. She'd brush off my questions with vague answers about networking opportunities and exploring options. Then came the day that changed everything. I was walking across campus, when I heard a familiar voice drifting from the business building. It was Ava, but she sounded different, more polished, more confident, more corporate. Curious, I followed the sound to one of the presentation rooms where the Entrepreneurship Club hosted their pitch sessions. Through the glass door, I saw her standing at the front of the room, perfectly put together in a blazer I'd never seen before, gesturing animatedly at a slide presentation. The room was packed with students, professors, and what looked like actual investors, people in expensive suits taking notes and nodding along. And then I saw the slides. My slides. My research. My brand concept. My future. Black Bloom represents more than just beauty products, Ava was saying, her voice carrying that practiced confidence of someone who'd given this presentation multiple times. It's about creating space for natural Black beauty in an industry that has consistently marginalized us. The market research shows a clear gap. My market research. My gap analysis. My words coming out of her mouth like she'd thought of them herself. I stood there frozen, watching my best friend present my life's work as her own creation. The investors were eating it up, asking questions about market penetration and scalability, questions I'd prepared answers for, questions she was now fielding with my research and my insights. The worst part wasn't even the theft itself. It was how good she was at it. How naturally she wore my dreams, how seamlessly she'd transformed herself into the entrepreneur I'd been working to become. She'd taken everything, my concept, my research, my presentation style, even some of my exact phrases, and somehow made it feel like it had always belonged to her. When she finished, the room erupted in applause. I watched professors shake her hand, watched investors slip her business cards, watched my future unfold in front of someone else. I don't remember walking home. I don't remember calling in sick to my part-time job or canceling my evening plans. All I remember is sitting in my apartment, staring at my computer screen where I'd saved every iteration of the Black Bloom concept, feeling like someone had reached into my chest and ripped out my heart. When Ava texted me later that evening, "Amazing presentation today. The investors were so impressed. Can't wait to celebrate with you." I knew our friendship was over, but I never imagined that losing my best friend would be just the beginning. I never imagined that 3 years later, she'd be trying to erase me from her life completely. And I definitely never imagined that she'd be doing it as my brother's fiancée. The universe, it seems, has a very sick sense of humor indeed. 3 years of silence. 3 years of carefully curated social media posts that I'd scroll through like picking at a scab I couldn't leave alone. Ava's Instagram had transformed from college party pics and study group selfies into something that belonged in a lifestyle magazine. Designer outfits, business conference stages, magazine covers with headlines like "The Self-Made Millionaire Changing Beauty Standards." Self-made. The irony burned every single time. I'd moved to Chicago after graduation, partly for the job opportunities, mostly to put distance between myself and the ghost of who I used to be. Working at a marketing firm wasn't my dream, but it paid the bills and kept me busy enough that I could almost forget about Black Bloom. Almost. Then came Jamal's phone call on a Tuesday evening in March. "Maya, guess what?" My brother's voice was electric with excitement, the kind of joy that made you smile even when you couldn't see him. "I'm getting married." I nearly dropped my phone. "What? When? Who?" The questions tumbled out before I could stop them. Jamal had always been the family's eternal bachelor, the one who charmed everyone but never seemed ready to settle down. Her name is Ava, and she's incredible. Brilliant, beautiful, successful. She runs her own beauty company. "Maya, you're going to love her." The world tilted sideways. It couldn't be. There had to be thousands of Avas in the world, right? Successful, beautiful Avas who ran beauty companies? But even as I tried to convince myself it was a coincidence, I knew. Deep in my gut, I knew. "Ava what?" I managed to whisper. "Martinez. Ava Martinez. She's originally from Miami, went to Howard." The phone slipped from my numb fingers, clattering onto my hardwood floor. Through the speaker, I could hear Jamal calling my name, asking if I was okay, but his voice sounded like it was coming from underwater. My best friend. My brother. The woman who stole my dreams was going to become my sister-in-law. I don't know how long I sat there on my kitchen floor, staring at nothing, before I finally picked up the phone and pretended the call had dropped. When Jamal called back, I forced enthusiasm into my voice, asked all the right questions, made all the appropriate excited sister noises. But inside, I felt like I was drowning. Over the next few weeks, the details trickled in through family calls and social media stalking that bordered on obsessive. They'd met at a networking event in Atlanta. Of course they had. Ava had been the keynote speaker, talking about building authentic brands in competitive markets. Jamal, who worked in sports marketing and had never shown much interest in beauty products, had apparently been blown away by her vision and authenticity. Authenticity. I laughed until I cried. The engagement photos appeared on Instagram like a perfectly orchestrated PR campaign. Jamal, handsome as always in his crisp white shirt and easy smile, looking at Ava like she hung the moon. And Ava, God, she looked exactly the same, but completely different. Still beautiful, still radiant, but there was something polished about her now, something calculated in the way she angled her face toward the camera. The captions told their love story in carefully crafted sound bites. When you find someone who believes in your dreams as much as you do. Building a future with my best friend and biggest supporter. Can't wait to start this next chapter. I screenshotted every post, every comment, every tagged location like I was building a case file, which in a way I was. The wedding planning content started immediately. Venue tours, dress shopping, cake tastings, all documented with the hashtag #AviandJamalForever. She'd found the perfect location, Willow Heights, a historic estate with gardens that looked like something out of a fairy tale and a rooftop terrace that overlooked the city skyline. The kind of place you see in magazines, the kind of place that costs more than most people make in a year. But still, no invitation came. When I finally worked up the courage to ask Jamal about it during one of our weekly calls, his voice got that careful, diplomatic tone he used when he was trying to smooth over family drama. "It's probably just a misunderstanding," he said, but I could hear the uncertainty underneath. You know how crazy wedding planning gets. Things get lost, addresses get mixed up. "Jamal." I interrupted him gently. "Have you given her my address?" A pause. Too long of a pause. I'm sure she has it. From the family contact list Mom sent around last Christmas, remember? But we both knew that wasn't the answer to the question I was really asking. I started watching more carefully after that. Every vendor post, every planning update, every guest list tease. I saw college friends I recognized. I saw family members I'd never met. I saw business associates and investors and what looked like half of Atlanta's social media influencer scene. But never my name. Never even a hint that Jamal had a sister who might want to celebrate his happiness. That's when the truth crystallized into something sharp and clear. Ava hadn't just stolen my business idea. She'd stolen my place in my own family. And she was planning to do it all in front of cameras, investors, and media coverage that would cement her image as the successful, authentic entrepreneur she'd never actually been. She wanted me nowhere near that wedding because I was the one person who knew the truth. I was the ghost of her past, the inconvenient reminder of where her original ideas had actually come from. In her perfectly curated world, I didn't exist. But what Ava didn't know, what she'd forgotten in all her careful image management, was that I'd learned a few things about strategy myself over the past 3 years. And I had absolutely no intention of staying invisible. The game had changed, but I was finally ready to play. The plan came to me at 3 a.m. on a Thursday, the way all my best ideas did, in that liminal space between sleeping and waking when your brain makes connections it normally wouldn't dare to make. I'd been lying in bed, scrolling through Ava's latest wedding updates for the 100th time, when something clicked. She was making one mistake. One tiny, crucial mistake that someone less obsessed might have missed. Ava had been posting about Willow Heights for weeks, gushing about the perfect venue and the dream location with the kind of enthusiasm that felt almost manic. Every post was accompanied by professional photos of the estate's sprawling gardens, the grand ballroom with its crystal chandeliers, and that famous rooftop terrace where celebrities had been getting married for decades. But in her excitement to show off her perfect choice, she'd revealed something she probably shouldn't have. The booking wasn't quite finalized. Still working out the final details with the amazing team at Willow Heights, she'd posted just 2 days ago, accompanied by a photo of herself and Jamal standing in front of the venue's iconic iron gates. Sometimes the most beautiful things are worth the extra effort. Hashtag worth the wait, hashtag Willow Heights, hashtag Avi and Jamal forever. Worth the wait. Extra effort. The language of someone still negotiating, still working things out, still vulnerable. I knew someone at Willow Heights. Marcus Chun had been in my marketing program at Northwestern, one of those quiet, brilliant guys who remembered everything and everyone but never made a big deal about it. After graduation, he'd surprised everyone by going into event management instead of traditional marketing, saying he wanted to create experiences, not just sell products. The last I'd heard, he was working at some high-end venue in Atlanta. I'd never thought to check which one. It took me exactly 4 minutes of LinkedIn stalking to confirm what my gut was already telling me. Marcus Chun, event coordinator at Willow Heights Estate. I stared at his profile picture, still the same Marcus, maybe a little more polished, but with that same quiet confidence, and felt something shift inside me. This wasn't just luck. This was the universe finally deciding to play on my team. My hands were shaking as I crafted the message. Too casual, and he might not take me seriously. Too formal, and he'd know something was up. I rewrote it 7 times before hitting send. Marcus. Maya Johnson from Northwestern Marketing. Hope you're doing well. I'm planning a wellness retreat for Black female entrepreneurs and heard amazing things about Willow Heights. Would love to chat about availability, if you have a few minutes. Hope Atlanta is treating you well. He responded within 2 hours. Maya, great to hear from you. Would love to help with your retreat. Sounds like exactly the kind of event we love hosting. Can you call this afternoon? I'm free after 3. The conversation started innocently enough. Marcus was genuinely excited about the retreat concept, asking thoughtful questions about the programming and the target audience. We talked for 20 minutes about logistics and capacity before I casually steered the conversation toward dates. I'm flexible on timing, I said, injecting just the right amount of professional enthusiasm into my voice. Though I was hoping for some time in late spring or early summer. I know you guys probably book up pretty far in advance. Actually, we might have something perfect, Marcus said, and I could hear him clicking through what sounded like a booking system. We had a wedding scheduled for May 15th that's been, well, let's just say the payment situation has been complicated. The couple keeps asking for extensions, restructuring the payment plan. It's been going on for weeks. May 15th, Ava and Jamal's wedding date. That sounds like it could work, I said carefully. What would the situation be if they don't get their payment sorted out? Marcus sighed. Honestly, we've been more than patient, but we're a business. If they can't meet their obligations by the payment deadline, which is tomorrow, actually, we'll have to release the date. It's unfortunate, but we can't hold space indefinitely. Tomorrow. The payment deadline was tomorrow. What would it take to secure that date? I asked, trying to keep my voice steady. Full payment up front, which for your type of event would be significantly less than a wedding. Probably around $40,000 for the full estate, catering, and premium service package. $40,000. It was more money than I'd ever spent on anything in my life. It was my entire emergency fund, the money I'd been carefully saving for years, the nest egg that was supposed to help me eventually start my own business. But as I sat there, phone pressed to my ear, listening to Marcus detail the venue's amenities, I realized this wasn't just about the money. This was about reclaiming something that had been stolen from me. This was about making sure that Ava's perfect day, the day she planned to celebrate her perfect life built on my stolen dreams, wouldn't go according to her carefully orchestrated plan. I can have the payment to you by noon tomorrow, I heard myself saying. Really? That's fantastic. Let me send you the contract details. The next morning, I sat in my bank's parking lot for 15 minutes, staring at the wire transfer confirmation on my phone screen. $40,000. Gone. Transferred to Willow Heights Estate for a wellness retreat for Black female entrepreneurs scheduled for May 15th. I'd booked Ava's dream venue for the exact same date as her wedding, under my name. The retreat wasn't entirely fictional. I'd been toying with the idea for months, and now I had a very expensive reason to make it happen. But that wasn't really the point. The point was that for the first time in 3 years, I had something Ava wanted. Something she needed. Something she couldn't just take from me. My phone buzzed with a text from Marcus. Contract signed and payment confirmed. So, excited to work with you on this, Maya. Willow Heights is going to be perfect for your retreat. Can't wait to see what you create. What I was creating, Marcus, was justice. I screenshotted the confirmation email and saved it to a folder I titled Black Bloom 2.0. Then I opened Instagram and did something I hadn't done in 3 years. I started planning a post about my business. After all, I had a wellness retreat to promote and a venue to showcase. Ava wanted to erase me from her perfect narrative. Fine. But she was about to learn that some people refuse to stay invisible. And sometimes, the best revenge isn't crashing someone's party. Sometimes, it's throwing a better one. The first sign that my plan was working came at 6:47 a.m., exactly 18 hours after I'd secured Willow Heights. I was getting ready for work when my phone started buzzing with a call from an unknown Atlanta number. I let it go to voicemail, then another call, then another. By the time I was brushing my teeth, there were 7 missed calls. The voicemails told the story I'd been hoping to hear. The first one was professional, controlled. Hi, this is Ava Martinez calling about a potential scheduling conflict with Willow Heights Estate. Could you please call me back at your earliest convenience? By the 4th message, the professional veneer was cracking. Look, I don't know who you are, but there's been some kind of mistake with the venue booking. This is my wedding date. Please call me back immediately. The 7th message was pure desperation wrapped in barely contained fury. I know you can hear these messages. Whoever you are, whatever game you think you're playing, you need to fix this. Now. I saved every single one. The Instagram post started that afternoon. Where Ava's feed had been a carefully curated stream of wedding perfection, suddenly there were gaps. The daily venue updates stopped. The countdown posts disappeared. Instead, there were generic motivational quotes and throwback photos, the kind of content you post when you're buying time. But I knew the real panic was happening behind the scenes. It started with Jamal's text messages. Casual at first, the kind of brotherly check-ins that wouldn't raise suspicion if anyone else saw them. Hey Maya, how's Chicago treating you? Work going well? Haven't heard from you in a while. Then, as the days passed and Ava's crisis deepened, the messages became more pointed. Maya, have you been getting any weird calls lately? Ava's been dealing with some venue drama for the wedding. Someone with a similar name apparently double-booked their date. Crazy coincidence, right? Similar name. I almost laughed out loud. Ava was spinning the story, trying to make it sound like an innocent mix-up instead of what it really was, her own failure to secure her booking properly. Haven't gotten any strange calls. I texted back, which was technically true. Ava's increasingly frantic voicemails didn't count as strange. They were exactly what I'd expected. The wedding planner is working on sorting it out, came Jamal's next message. But Ava's pretty stressed. You know how important this day is to her. Oh, I knew exactly how important it was. That's why I'd taken it. A week after the venue situation exploded, something else started to unravel. I was scrolling through industry news during my lunch break when I saw the headline that made my heart race. Beauty brand founder's inspiration under scrutiny after college classmate speaks out. The article was in Beauty Business Weekly, a trade publication that took intellectual property seriously. Someone, not me, though I had my suspicions about, who had reached out to them with some interesting information about the origins of certain successful beauty brands. While Martinez has long credited her Howard University experience with inspiring her brand concept, recently surfaced documents suggest the genesis of her signature product line may have originated from collaborative work with a former classmate. They didn't name me directly, but they didn't have to. Anyone who'd been at Howard during our senior year, anyone who'd witnessed that presentation where Ava had stolen my concept, would know exactly who they were talking about. The article included side-by-side comparisons that made my chest tight with vindication and fury. My original business plan, somehow they'd gotten hold of it, next to excerpts from Ava's early investor presentations. The similarities weren't just obvious. They were damning. Market analysis paragraphs that were identical except for minor word changes. Product positioning statements that matched almost exactly. Even some of the demographic research I'd spent months compiling presented as Ava's original insights. But the most devastating part was the dates. My business plan was time-stamped from our senior year, complete with version histories that showed months of development. Ava's first investor presentation using the same concepts was dated 6 months later. The evidence was undeniable. I screenshot the article and read it 7 times, each pass revealing new details that confirmed what I'd known all along. Ava hadn't just taken inspiration from my work. She'd committed wholesale intellectual theft and built her entire brand on the foundation of my stolen dreams. The comments section was brutal. Industry professionals, Howard alumni, other entrepreneurs, all weighing in on what appeared to be a clear case of idea appropriation. The damage to Ava's carefully constructed image was immediate and severe. This is exactly why NDAs exist in collaborative work. If this is true, it's career-ending stuff. The beauty industry doesn't tolerate this kind of dishonesty. I worked with Martinez on a project last year and always felt something was off about her origin story. This explains a lot. By the time I got home that evening, there were 12 new voicemails from Ava. The progression from professional concern to barely controlled panic was almost artistic in its clarity. Maya, I know it's you. I know you're behind the venue thing, and now this article. We need to talk. Please. Look, I get that you're angry about what happened in college, but this is my life you're messing with. This is my wedding, my business, my future. Please just call me back. Jamal doesn't know about our history, okay? He doesn't know about any of it. Don't ruin this for him. Please don't ruin this for him. That last message was the one that got to me. Not because I felt sorry for her, but because it revealed the full scope of her deception. She hadn't just stolen from me and erased me from her professional narrative. She'd also erased me from her relationship with my own brother. Jamal didn't know that his fiancée used to be my best friend. He didn't know about the years we'd spent building dreams together, or about the brutal way she'd shattered our friendship. In his mind, this wedding venue situation was just an unfortunate coincidence, and these industry rumors were just jealous competitors trying to tear down his successful fiancé. She'd stolen my dreams, my friendship, and now my family's understanding of who she really was. But she'd made one crucial mistake in all her careful image management. She'd left evidence. And evidence, as I was about to show her, has a way of surfacing when you least expect it. The real confrontation was still coming. She showed up at my apartment on a Thursday night, 3 days before what should have been her wedding day. I was expecting her. The increasingly desperate voicemails had been building to this moment like a symphony reaching its crescendo. What I wasn't expecting was how small she looked standing in my hallway. Gone was the polished entrepreneur from the magazine covers, the confident woman who'd stolen my dreams and worn them like designer clothes. The Ava at my door was hollow-eyed and trembling, her usually perfect hair pulled back in a messy bun, wearing jeans and a Howard University sweatshirt that I recognized from our college days. She was wearing my past like armor, trying to remind me of who we used to be. Maya. Her voice cracked on my name. Please. We need to talk. I'd rehearsed this moment 100 times in my head, imagined all the cutting things I'd say, all the ways I'd make her feel as small and erased as she'd made me feel. But seeing her there, reduced to this desperate version of herself, I felt something I hadn't expected, a flicker of the friendship we used to have. I stepped aside and let her in. My apartment was exactly what you'd expect from a marketing professional in Chicago. Clean lines, neutral colors, inspirational quotes on the walls that I'd stopped believing in years ago. But I'd prepared for this visit. On my coffee table, arranged with the precision of a lawyer presenting evidence, were printouts that would change everything. Ava saw them immediately. Her face went white. Sit down, I said, my voice calmer than I felt. She perched on the edge of my couch like she might need to run at any moment, her eyes darting between my face and the documents spread across the table. I sat across from her, suddenly feeling like we were back in college, 2 girls trying to figure out our futures. Except now, Only one of us had a future left to figure out. I know what you're thinking, she started, her words tumbling over each other. About the venue, about the article, about everything. But Maya, you have to understand.
No.
I cut her off, my voice sharp enough to make her flinch. You're going to listen first. Then you can talk. I picked up the first set of documents, side-by-side comparisons of her pitch deck and my original business plan. The evidence was damning. Identical market research, matching demographic analysis, even the same typos I'd made in my early drafts. This is my business plan from senior year, I said, sliding it across the table. Dated and saved with version histories. And this is your investor presentation from 6 months later. Want to explain the similarities? Her hands shook as she looked at the papers. Maya, I can explain. I'm not done. I reached for the next set of documents, printouts from the Beauty Business Weekly article and the social media responses. The whole industry is talking about it now. Your self-made story is falling apart and everyone knows it. But the documents that made her break weren't the business plans or the articles. They were the screenshots I'd taken of her social media posts over the years, side by side with my original concepts. 3 years of watching her build an empire on my stolen foundation, 3 years of seeing her celebrated for my ideas, 3 years of being erased from my own dreams. You didn't just steal my business concept, I said, my voice deadly quiet. You stole my entire identity. You took everything I was working toward and made it yours. And then you tried to erase me completely. The tears started then, silent at first, then building into the kind of sobs that shake your whole body. I never meant for it to go this far, she whispered. That first presentation, I was just so scared. I was failing organic chemistry, my parents were threatening to cut me off, and you had this amazing idea that could change everything. I thought I'd just borrow it for one presentation, just to buy myself some time. But then it worked, I said. It worked so well. Her voice was barely audible. The investors loved it. They wanted to fund it. And I thought, maybe I could make it work. Maybe I could turn it into something real and then bring you in as a partner later. But the more successful it became, the harder it was to admit what I'd done. So you decided to bury me instead. She looked up at me then, her face streaked with tears and mascara. I never wanted to hurt you. You have to believe that. But you did hurt me. And now you're marrying my brother, and he doesn't even know who you really are. That's when her desperation turned to something sharper, more calculated. Maya, please. Think about what you're doing. If you destroy me, you destroy him too.
Jamal loves me.
He's built his whole future around us being together. Do you really want to break your brother's heart just to get revenge? It was a smart play, appealing to my love for Jamal. But she'd miscalculated something crucial about who I'd become over the past 3 years. This isn't about revenge, I said, standing up and walking to my laptop. This is about truth. I opened my email and showed her the screen. In my drafts folder was a message addressed to Jamal, with copies to my parents and several industry contacts who'd been following the story. The subject line read, "What you need to know about Ava Martinez." You have a choice, I said, turning the laptop toward her. You can tell Jamal the truth about who you are and what you did. All of it. The theft, our friendship, the lies you've built your entire relationship on. Or I send this email and he finds out from me. Her face cycled through a dozen emotions: fear, anger, calculation, despair. You're bluffing. You wouldn't hurt Jamal like that. Try me. We stared at each other across the coffee table, 3 years of hurt and betrayal crackling between us like electricity. I could see her weighing her options, trying to find an angle, a way to manipulate the situation to her advantage. But what she didn't know was that I'd already made my choice. While she was calculating and scheming, I'd already hit send on a different set of emails. Not to Jamal, not yet. But to journalists, to legal advisors, to other entrepreneurs who'd been following the story. The evidence was already out there, spreading through the industry like wildfire. Her brand was finished. Her reputation was destroyed. And her perfect wedding to my brother was about to become the least of her problems. The email to Jamal is just the beginning, I said softly. But it's not the real threat. Her phone buzzed then, and then again, and then it didn't stop buzzing. Text messages, missed calls, social media notifications. The rest of the evidence I'd been gathering for weeks had just gone public. She looked at her phone screen, and her face went gray. "What did you do?" "I gave the world the whole story," I said. "The real story. Your choice now is whether Jamal hears it from you or from everyone else." The girl who'd stolen my dreams was finally out of moves. The wedding that was supposed to change everything lasted exactly 47 minutes. I know because Jamal texted me from the courthouse afterward. Small ceremony. Just immediate family. Ava wanted something more intimate. The photo he sent showed them standing on the courthouse steps, Jamal in a simple navy suit, Ava in a white dress that looked like it came from a department store rack rather than a designer boutique. They were smiling, but even through the pixelated phone photo, I could see the strain around Ava's eyes. She told him. Not everything. I doubted she'd ever tell him everything, but enough. Enough to explain why the dream wedding had been downsized to a courthouse ceremony. Enough to justify why the media launch for her brand had been postponed indefinitely. Enough to make him understand why his sister had never received a wedding invitation. The official story, according to the family group chat, was that they decided to scale back and focus on their relationship rather than the spectacle. Sometimes the most important moments are the quiet ones. Ava had posted on Instagram, along with a single photo of their hands wearing simple gold bands. The comments section told a different story. Industry professionals, former business partners, and Howard alumni had all seen the evidence I'd released. The narrative around Ava Martinez, self-made entrepreneur, had completely collapsed. Her brand's PR team had issued a carefully worded statement about reassessing collaborative partnerships and ensuring proper attribution of foundational concepts, corporate speak for admitting she'd stolen my work without actually saying the words. But while Ava's world was crumbling, mine was finally beginning. May 15th dawned clear and perfect, the kind of spring day that makes you believe in new beginnings. I stood on the rooftop terrace of Willow Heights Estate, looking out over the city skyline that was supposed to be the backdrop for Ava's perfect wedding, and felt something I hadn't experienced in years. Pure, uncompromised joy. "Maya, this is incredible," said Keisha Williams, adjusting the microphone for her opening remarks. Keisha was a beauty industry veteran who'd built her own skincare line from scratch after being told her ideas were too niche for mainstream success. "I've been to a lot of industry events, but this feels different. This feels real." She was right. The Reclaim Wellness Retreat had attracted exactly the kind of women I dreamed of working with, Black female entrepreneurs who'd built their businesses through authenticity, struggle, and determination rather than theft and manipulation. There were skincare founders, hair care innovators, wellness coaches, and lifestyle brand creators. Women who looked like me, who'd faced the same obstacles I had, who understood what it meant to build something from nothing. The irony wasn't lost on me that I was hosting this event with money I'd spent to take away Ava's dream venue. But as I watched these incredible women networking on the terrace, sharing stories and strategies, building real connections based on mutual respect rather than calculated advantage, I knew I'd made the right choice. "I want to talk about intellectual property," I said during my keynote speech, looking out at an audience that included not just the retreat attendees, but also industry journalists, potential investors, and social media influencers who'd come to see what all the buzz was about. About the importance of protecting our ideas, crediting our collaborators, and building businesses based on authentic vision rather than borrowed concepts. I didn't mention Ava by name. I didn't need to. Everyone in that room knew exactly what I was talking about. The response was immediate and overwhelming. By the end of the weekend, I had 17 potential investors interested in funding Black Bloom, the real Black Bloom, built on my original concepts and authentic research. 3 major beauty retailers wanted to discuss partnerships. And most importantly, I had a network of women who understood my vision and wanted to help make it reality. The Instagram post I shared from the retreat went viral within hours. A photo of me on the Willow Heights rooftop, surrounded by Black female entrepreneurs, with a caption that told my story without naming names. 3 years ago, someone stole my business concept and tried to erase me from the narrative. Today, I'm reclaiming my space and celebrating the women who build authentic empires. This is what real self-made success looks like. The comments poured in support, encouragement, and story after story from other women who'd had their ideas stolen or their contributions erased. My phone didn't stop buzzing for days. Jamal called me the Tuesday after the retreat. "Maya," he said, his voice careful but warm, "I saw your posts from the weekend. The retreat looked amazing." It was, I said simply, a pause. Then, "Ava told me you two knew each other in college. She said there was some history." There was. Another pause. "I'm sorry you weren't at the wedding. I know now that the situation was more complicated than I understood." I closed my eyes, feeling the weight of 3 years of hurt and anger finally beginning to lift. "Jamal, I'm happy you're happy. That's all I've ever wanted." "I know," he said quietly. "And Maya, what you built this weekend, what you're doing with your business, I'm proud of you. I'm proud to be your brother." 6 months later, Black Bloom launched with the kind of industry attention that most brands spend years trying to achieve. The products sold out within hours. The media coverage was extensive and positive. And for the first time in my adult life, I was building something that was entirely, authentically mine. I never heard from Ava again. According to the industry publications, she'd stepped back from public-facing work and was focusing on personal projects. Her Instagram account went private. Her brand slowly faded from the beauty news cycle, replaced by newer, more authentic voices. She tried to erase me from her story, to write me out of existence like I'd never mattered. Instead, I'd reclaimed the narrative and written my own ending. Sometimes the best revenge isn't destroying someone else's dreams. Sometimes it's finally building your own.